Personal finance expert, MeVest founder Lesley-Anne Scorgi joining us on Canada Now. And Lesley-Anne, your latest article in The Star discusses how to start building wealth even without any money.
Right. And there is a myth out there that you have to have lots of money in order to get started, but I just need to debunk it right up front. That's absolutely not the case. You can actually start acting and behaving and taking the same measures that wealthy people, they live by these measures. You can do them right now, and you'll see that the benefit of the way that you act and behave is really what creates that abundance and that wealth in the long term. So it's kind of fun to know that, you can be broke, listen to this, and get started building wealth.
Exactly. And, you cite the example of Oprah. She turned herself into a self-made billionaire against all odds.
Absolutely. And Oprah is near and dear to my heart. I'm obsessed with her for so many reasons. She's always inspiring people. But she also gave me my big break. In 2001, I was on her show. I actually pulled out the VHS because we're on Zoom today. And I was like, this is my original VHS of the episode that I was on, Ordinary People, Extraordinary Wealth. But my point is this: she was one of those people who rose up from her circumstances against all odds being stacked against hers. And she and other self-made millionaires who I've had the good fortune of being able to study over the past 15 years, they all kind of do things a little differently. They're a lot more planful than perhaps we think. They didn't stumble into wealth. Many of them came from a place, in her case, rags to riches stories. But many of them came from this place where they had to learn how to build wealth. And that's the whole premise of our conversation today, is you can do it too.
Yeah, because there's no magic about it. There isn't any magic. I mean, okay, there might be a little bit of luck involved along the way. But there really isn't. They're not doing anything magical. There's no smoke and mirrors.
And that's the point. The magic isn't magic at all. It's just that they use a system that most of us, we don't get taught this in school, and it's not your fault. Nobody took you aside and said, here's how to build wealth. So I was really fortunate. I had a strong money mentor in my life in my late teens and early 20s. It was formal mentorship. I had assignments, and I was with a group of 5 young women who this woman was mentoring. And we were so busy learning the principles of wealth, but very rarely does somebody do that and get that kind of exposure. So this week, when I was preparing this piece that we're talking about today for The Star, I was like, what was that roadmap that I was taught? What was that roadmap that I pressure tested in my research? And I took this trip down memory lane, and I remember some of the threads of what I like to call the wealth builders roadmap,
yes,
super easy steps.
Yes, easy steps. And first things first, you have to take stock of what you have and what you owe in terms of money.
Isn't that the truth with so many things in life too? It's drawing your line in the sand to say, okay, I am here. But when it comes to your finances, it's just simply saying, this is what I owe money on. This is what I own. And then from that, you can actually determine this thing called net worth. Net worth is where if you sold everything today, it would be what you have left over. Now, the trick here is you want that number to grow. And the only way you can do it is by increasing your assets and reducing what you owe money on.
Yeah. And, and I guess it's getting back to Oprah and a lot of those that you mentioned. It's adopting a winning mindset. It's just having that mindset going in.
Yeah. So this month, I've been focused so heavily on money mindset. I ran this boot camp at the beginning of April with my students to just focus on mindset, because we know that winning money mindset starts with you saying, I am worthy of a new financial story. And that's a self-esteem piece. That's you saying, I want this, I'm willing to do the work. And it's a hard one, right? Especially if you've got some of your past catching up with you, it can be really hard to get over it. But just think about Oprah, right? Like her upbringing was just like full of terror, right? And awful things happened to her. And she was able to rise up because she believed in herself. She believed she was worthy of that new story, which is why I like love referencing her mindset.
Well, and it fast forwards to one of the steps that I was going to mention a little later on, but I think it's appropriate right now is finding a reason to grow your wealth. Actually, that would have been next, to find a reason to grow your wealth, because, you know, as you pointed out, and you're absolutely right in your piece in the Star, that really growing wealth, it often isn't about money. Like money isn't the actual motivator.
Think about like the reasons you go to work every day, or the reasons that you are that you care about something being successful. And I bet you any money it's never the surface reason. And that's what we find when we deal in the space of positive money psychology. We know that it's way more than having money. It's about freedom, flexibility, and we call this finding your financial why, the reason for doing this in the first place. And so when you survey wealthy people, they all have this thing called a financial why that they're able to clearly articulate and say, I am building wealth so that I can grow my family, support my community. Like it's not for a monetary reason. And so when we look at like that roadmap to wealth, anchor yourself and your mindset in that like that reason for doing it in the first place that will really help you.
Yeah. For me, it's pending alimony, because my wife's bound to come to her senses
Yeah.
at some point. Making a list of your financial goals as well. And look, getting back to your Oprah appearance, which, by the way, I did look for on the internet. I don't know why I hadn't done it earlier. I did look for it. And the biggest thing I take away from it is you do not age. You look exactly the same. Like, that could have been 2 years ago.
So funny. You and a few other people said the same thing. They wrote it on my Instagram saying, you haven't really aged that much. Like, if you look a little closer, I have. 20 years has gone by.
Yeah, 20 years. But I was like, that. There's no denying it. That was you. And your mom on the show as well.
Yeah, you know, my mom has actually played a really big role in developing my own money mindset because of how we grew up. There was so much struggle with my upbringing. And I saw my mom do, like, I thought at the time they were magical things. Like somehow between selling Avon on the weekends and the evenings and being a legal secretary during the day, she like put food on the table for 5 people and kept up with the bills. And like, I used to think like she was a magician. But now I know like she was and still does follow some of these principles. So she's not like rolling in dough now, but she has enough for a good retirement. And it's all because like she taught, even though she didn't have the money, she taught myself and my siblings like how to manage the money.
Yeah. Well, and I think the same could be said for my parents as well, because it's not about what they earned. It was about what they saved.
Yes.
And it's having that mindset that really got them through. And we never wanted for anything because we had everything we needed. Some of your other steps as well in the Wealth Builders Roadmap: keep track of where your money is going for 30 days, schedule daily reminders. We have the tech to do that and to mark your weekly progress. Overall, Lesley-Anne, it really isn't about perfection. It's about progress.
Absolutely it is. And I actually have a fun tool. If any of our listeners wants to download a PDF of these 7 steps, if you head on over to mevas.ca/blog, It's the first blog right up at the top of the screen, and it is the Wealth Builders Roadmap in there. You can download this. So it is about progress, not perfection. Just take some strides, take care of your financial health, and you're going to start to see the benefits.
Go to mevest.ca, personal finance expert, Mevest founder, and Hammering Hank's mom, Lesley-Anne Scorgi. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thanks, Jeff.
Look, we could talk in 20 years and you'll look exactly the same. Based on my research. Lesley-Anne, thanks for this. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff.